Hearing from Mary. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I'm going to do a search. Hi, Adriana. I'm going to do a search for Mary. Hold on 2 seconds. Hi, everyone. Let's see if we can find this. I'm going to do Mary_Trump. I screwed up last time. Anyway, Mary has some interesting things to say. A lot of people are interested in hearing from her. A lot of people wondering what Donald Trump's plans might be after he leaves office, about continued violence. I don't see her. Let's see. Hopefully I can find her. Anyway, how's everybody doing? I'm in Los Angeles, which is, pretty scary. Everything is closed down. And, I forgot to do the @ sign. Sorry. Everything is closed down. The weather here is beautiful, so that's nice. But, it's kind of like a ghost town. And I'm being super careful because I do not want to get COVID. And I just turned 64, so I'm kind of at an age where it's a little dangerous. Okay. I don't see her, you guys. We'll keep working. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Ann Keating likes my blouse, which I bought at J. Crew many years ago. Yes, I am taping some Jeopardy shows this week, and I'm really nervous because I did that, Adriana, and she's not showing up. Because they talk so fast, and everybody is so smart, and hopefully I'll be able to keep it together. I know Paisley Shoemaker 63 is tired of talking about Donald Trump. I think we're gonna hopefully stop talking about this and about him after Wednesday's inauguration. But I think a lot of people are interested in what's going to happen between now and then. There's some pretty scary situations in terms of security. Capitol Police arrested a guy with a lot of explosives over the weekend and a fake credential for the inauguration. Hey, you guys, do you think Mary's on here, Adriana? I'll keep looking. Anyway, how are you guys doing? The weather here is absolutely beautiful. And I have to say, hi, Jess. It's nice to be in the sun. Does anybody see Mary on this? Because, okay. Hi, everyone. I'm so sorry. This always happens to me, doesn't it? The handle is @Mary_L_T, and the rest is Trump. Anyway, Mary is having issues now. Shoot. I know there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to talk about on Bill Maher. And one of the points I wanted to mention is, 75% of people now get their news and information from social media. And as you know, the internet is just replete with falsehoods, conspiracy theories, things that get spread instantaneously. And we do live in two distinct media echo chambers right now, or ecosystems. Okay. Hold on, everybody. Okay, Mary's in now. Hold on. Anyway, what I was going to say is something's got to be done to keep all this misinformation under control, because they're tearing our whole country apart. People are ascribing to these crazy ideas. They're inciting people, and people are organizing on these platforms, and then voila, you get an event like you saw on January 6th, where people said, incidentally, if you all have watched some of these videos that have been put together by various news organizations, we're here because of our president. President Trump sent us. So obviously, it goes without saying that they felt permission and emboldened by the president's speech. Okay, I'm looking, and I always have this problem with Mary, and I don't know why. Let's try it one more time, Mary. Okay, I got to do the at. Mary. I know I'm doing it, Adriana. Hold on, give me a sec. L. Okay, I think I have her. Is this you, Mary? Send request. Mary. It's probably because it has an ellipsis after the T.
Hi.
Oh, Mary.
Instagram hates me.
No, and I'm sorry, and I'm just not very good at it either, Mary, and I always screw it up. So thank you so much. Hi, happy Sunday. How you doing, Mary?
You know what? It totally depends on how Wednesday goes, how I'm doing.
Well,
I'm very worried.
Tell me what you're most worried about.
I don't understand why they're not holding this virtually and inside. I've heard, that would be caving in. We can't let them take our traditions away from us. Well, they already have. Washington, D.C. has been turned into a green zone. It literally looks like Baghdad during the Iraq invasion. And we've got 25,000 National Guard troops. The cities are totally shut down. So
Right.
They've already done that. And I felt for a long time it should be virtual because of COVID. I mean, that's enough of a reason.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be a concession or anything, but the concession's been made. And allowing something else to happen on Wednesday, that would be giving them yet another win. And we can't afford it.
I have a feeling, though, I mean, I don't know, gosh, famous last words, and I don't want to jinx anything, but I do feel like 25,000 National Guard troops who have been activated. I think the place is pretty tight. And I have to believe, Mary, that Joe Biden is not going to, I was on Bill Maher on Friday, and we were talking about a distant relative of mine, William Henry Harrison, who gave a inaugural address and got pneumonia.
Yeah.
On days.
Yeah.
So we do not want to, obviously President-elect Biden to be out there for very long for COVID, for health reasons in general.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, Mary, that it's going to be a long involved outdoor ceremony. So I think the sign of saying, we are going to continue our, to hold up our democracy. We're going, so I can see sides. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm a glass half full person, but I feel like the situation's pretty tamped down. And in all these state capitals, I think there's also a lot of security. Some people, by the way, want me to turn the comments off, but I also like to hear what people are saying. So hopefully the comments will be intelligent and not off the wall. There are a lot of questions I have for you. You thought that President Trump, your uncle, enjoyed every second. It is so strange that it took him 2 hours to do anything about this. And, what was going through his head as he watched this unfold?
It's similar, and I totally take your point, and I do think it's important that President Biden be given his due, absolutely. And maybe we'll get to this later. I am actually much more concerned about the state capitals. Anyway, I think there's a lot of stuff that went on Wednesday, January 6th, that's suspect. What was going through his head? Not that I know for sure. But I am quite certain that the reason he didn't stop it was because he liked it. Those people were there for him at his instigation. Those people were storming the Capitol on his behalf. And there was no way he was going to put a stop. I'm
They,
sorry?
they said as much on the
Yeah.
video. If you've seen all the tapes that have come out, many of them said, our president, we're here for our president.
Yeah. And let's, I was just following orders excuse doesn't really work. So fine that that's what they think. And it just indicts him and them. But why would he stop them when they were still in the process of trying to accomplish what he wanted them to accomplish? There's no doubt that they were there, not to make a statement, but to affect the overturning of the legitimate election results. That's scary. And I also find it really weird that the Secret Service didn't see fit to put him in a secure location. There was no way to know if there were other people maybe trying other other people planning other attacks against other government buildings. I found that a little weird as well. So we need a thorough accounting because Donald didn't start making statements until it was essentially over.
Yeah, and I think there's an ongoing investigation, and we have to figure out, who knew what when,
Yeah.
who, why wasn't why wasn't the Capitol Police better prepared? Why wasn't the DC Police brought in? Why did people ignore Larry Hogan when he offered his enforcements to come in? Yeah, we, by the way, put the New Yorker video, 12-minute video on my Instagram page. If anyone wants to look at it, it's pretty extraordinarily outrageous and upsetting. But what about do you think that the followers and the people who did this, do you think this hurt Donald Trump's base? This is a strange question because I do think that of the 74 million people who voted for your uncle, not everyone, of course, is the kind of person who thinks it's fine to storm the U.S. Capitol and try to hunt down Nancy Pelosi and claim they're going to hang Mike Pence. So do you think that have you talked to any people who support your uncle? I don't even know if you know anybody who supports your uncle at this point.
I don't.
But in terms of your relationships, but do you think this will hurt his base and that people will fall away who were just completely appalled by what they saw?
No, it emboldens his base because, again, they won. They scored points on Wednesday, January 6th. They actually got into the Capitol building. They desecrated our Capitol. They flew their flags. They overpowered the Capitol Police. And you're right. Wow, we need to figure out what was going on there. And they came very, very close to fulfilling their hideous objectives. They murdered a police officer. And on that day, 13 people were arrested. Okay, yes, they're getting arrested now. Some of them are getting released on their own recognizance. We have a long way to go before there's a full reckoning here, but they won that day. And there's literally no reason for them not to feel emboldened because Donald's not backing off. His children aren't backing off. And we still have 140 elected representatives in Congress who, after all of this, voted to overturn the result of a legitimate election. We have in our government actual seditionists who are supposed to be running our government. So until such time as all of those people are held accountable, removed from office, indicted, convicted, whatever the case may be, we should not at all feel like, oh, well, they didn't get what they wanted, so they're just going to hang their heads and give up. And as for the rest of the majority of the people who voted for Donald, I agree with you. I think many of them don't condone what happened, but we need to look at the statistics. 75% of Republicans think that the election was illegitimate, and over a plurality of Republicans support what happened at the Capitol. I mean, we are in so much trouble in terms of that, because there's no short-term fix for that. And before I got on, I heard you talking about the media and the sort of echo chambers that are largely, or not exclusively, but largely responsible for where the Republican Party, and let's face it, it is I'm not trying to be partisan. I'm trying to be realistic and honest, and look at the data, which show that this is a Republican Party problem. So what are we going to do about that?
Some people are asking, and I was curious too. I have this question about Ivanka and Ivanka Trump, and also about Don Jr. What about their political aspirations? Do you think that Ivanka would like to be handed the baton, and that she is the chosen Trump to carry out Trumpism if he, for some reason, can't?
I'm sure she has every expectation that that's going to happen. I'm sure, or I imagine that's what she wants. If Donald did any of us a favor 2 weeks ago, it was he made that increasingly unlikely, especially for Donnie. He's directly linked to inciting an insurrection. Now, look, I don't want to take anything for granted, because 5 years ago, practically everybody on the planet was saying that Donald had absolutely no hope of getting within a trillion light years of the Oval Office, and here we are. So I don't want to be sanguine about it, but I think the likelihood of either one of them, Donnie or Ivanka, having a viable political future was, if not obliterated, it was certainly negatively impacted 2 weeks ago. So sorry.
I was just going to say, someone asked, I mean, you know, as somebody who is the psychologist, are his children narcissists as well? How are they not embarrassed by his behavior?
You know, I can't diagnose them, certainly, but what I can say, just based on my understanding of my family and my understanding of how Donald's relationships with his children work, is that these are entirely transactional relationships, and they're entirely conditional relationships. As far as the conditional part works, his kids know that if they want to stay in his good graces and continue to be supported by him, literally, I mean, not one of them has ever had an independent career or supported him or herself independently. They need to toe his line, and if they don't, he'll cut them off just as he would anybody else. And that's a devastating thing to say about a parent, because the only unconditional love on this planet should be for a parent and the child, and that's not at all how it works. In terms of the transactional component, all of them also understand that if that Donald is of use to them, and just as they are of use to him, and they will continue to hang in there together as long as that's the case. I'm beginning to think that Ivanka certainly is beginning to make the calculation that it would benefit her more to distance herself from Donald.
Why do you think that?
Because, and as for embarrassment, no, they're incapable of shame. It's kind of a genetic thing in my family, not across the board, but it's pretty common. I think that because first of all, she's been very quiet, and she deleted her tweet in which she called violent armed insurrectionists against the United States government patriots. And, you know, I think that she and Jared are taking a hands-off approach now. And they must know, because anybody with any sense at all knows that Donald blew it. He way overstepped in a way that I think a lot of people didn't expect he would. And it's not that he overstepped, but that probably for the first time in his life, there was backlash, the likes of which he's never seen. They're aware of that. So they're going to maintain a distance, and it's up to us never, ever to let them pretend that they weren't with him lockstep every step of the way for 6 years.
You have to believe this is going to tarnish the Trump brand commercially. I mean, you've got all these Deutsche Bank refusing to work with him. You've got Bill de Blasio, I mean, saying that he can't do things in New York. I mean, one after another. Things are happening. So many organizations, companies, individuals are distancing themselves stat
Yeah.
from Donald Trump. So don't you think he's going to have a difficult time? Or do you feel like the number of people that, I mean, if you magnify the number of people who were at the Capitol last January, I mean, on January 6th, do you think that they'll be emboldened, that they'll grow in numbers, which is a really terrifying thought?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank goodness that businesses are finally coming to their senses. I guess better late than never. And that is, if they continue to do that consistently, that's going to be a huge, huge help in making sure that Donald remains irrelevant. The other thing that needs to happen and should have happened, and it's disgraceful that it hasn't happened, is, considering he was not going to be removed before because Mitch McConnell wasn't going to have a trial, he should never, the third section of the 14th Amendment needs to be invoked. And that says that anybody who enabled or participated in an armed insurrection against the United States government is no longer able to run for public office. This needs to happen as soon as humanly possible, preferably at 12:01 p.m. on January 20th, because I never believed that Donald was really going to run for president again. However, he could pretend to. But if they invoke Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, he can't pretend to. And that takes away a huge platform for him.
Yeah, that my understanding was that only requires a simple majority in the Senate. And there's some discussion whether that can take place even if they don't vote to convict him.
Yes. Yeah, I think they're separate issues. So that's huge. And then, to get to your main question, we should be very afraid of, because we've seen this happen. One of the reasons we're in this situation is because for 2 years, from 2017 to 2019, the worst 22% among us was represented by 100% of the federal government. And that the racism, the misogyny, the white supremacy, the domestic terrorist strains, all of that was allowed to metastasize to more and more people who, maybe weren't so susceptible to it before because it was contained. It wasn't contained anymore. So the more he's silenced, the more he's contained, the more we're going to be able to shrink the number of people who think it's okay. I think between that and the fact that Joe Biden right away is going to start helping people, all of that's going to turn the temperature down. At least that's my hope. And the media has a huge responsibility here, as does corporate America.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. They're going to have to be very disciplined because, as Les Moonves said, he's bad for the country, but good for business.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to have to make sure that people are disciplined and cover him. And he's not going to have, I mentioned on Friday night, this ability to go directly to people if he's off these social platforms. And it's pretty hard to develop a huge social platform from scratch. So that, and I read something that 73% of like the stop the steal rhetoric after the president was shut off Twitter and things like that that basically dissipated. So it shows you how these things provide gasoline for, but to these fabulous who write about, the rigged election, et cetera, et cetera. I had a long talk with Kellyanne Conway after she was on Bill Maher, and she said that she thought he had a lot of business people who were calling him and putting these ideas in his head. And they too had read a lot of this misinformation online. And who knows how this, but it's really scary that all of this came together to have all those members of Congress, as you said, and the chief cheerleader about the rigged election continue this false narrative for so long and have it end up as it did on January 6th. A couple people are asking about, and I saw this as well, this big departure ceremony he's planning with a 21 gun salute and military and red carpet, et cetera, before he leaves the White House. That's using taxpayer money. Is there anything that can be done about something like that? Or do we just have to indulge him to give this big departure parade for himself?
Well, first of all, it made me so sad to see that statistic, that 73%. Imagine if they had done that. He should have been kicked off Twitter when he was engaging in his birther racism. But anyway, as for Wednesday, it was heartening to hear that the Pentagon is not providing the military send-off that they traditionally do, and that's fitting. As for the other stuff, it's not about indulging him. Like, what can we do? He's still unbelievably has the power to make that happen. And over the last couple of months, certainly in an accelerated way, he's been installing cronies at all of our departments, and he may be able to make it happen, but and that's awful. And I said to somebody the other day, you should have to leave the White House in the back of a white panel van, but that's not going to happen. So since I don't think there's anything we can do to stop it, I don't know if there's anything Congress can do to stop it. Probably not. If it is going to happen, then let's look at it this way. It's our party. It's our get out of our house, get out of our capital, get out of our government, going away party. And if that makes him feel better, well, okay, it's going to be very short-lived, because he knows better than anybody how desperate he is and how much trouble he's staring down the barrel at.
So you think that, you mean in terms of legal trouble, or are you talking about like being isolated, not getting sort of his oxygen from media coverage? When you say trouble, what do you mean?
Well, I think somebody asked me recently, like, what is the most important thing, or what is he most afraid of losing? And I think that's attention and relevance. But he's really good at changing the narrative, so he can figure out a way, like, even if it's like sycophants surrounding him at Mar-a-Lago, and even if he's only on Newsmax and OAN, he'll spin that. But what I was talking about more specifically, although don't get me wrong, having him off of all of the airwaves would be good for all of us, especially his supporters, by the way. We're looking at three things. We're looking at the fact that banks no longer have to pull any punches and are perfectly positioned to demand repayment of his hundreds of millions of dollars in debt, because why wouldn't they? His businesses are suffering terribly because of, New York City is looking to cancel contracts with the Trump organization. The PGA is pulling tournaments, et cetera, et cetera. And he's destroyed his own brand, especially after January 6th. He's looking at several very serious lawsuits that have both criminal and financial implications. And he's also looking at very serious state level charges, which I believe are even more urgent now. I think if things had kind of gone smoothly in the last 2 months, maybe some states wouldn't have bothered. But because he has attacked our government, for God's sakes, while inhabiting the Oval Office, we have to use every means at our disposal. I was very heartened to hear that Georgia is looking at pursuing charges for election interference, which he clearly committed. It's not even alleged. We have him on tape. And New York is ready to go. So I think if he gets covered in the news as a defendant, I'm all for that.
Let me ask you about Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and some of these other Republicans. What happened to Ted Cruz? I mean, I'm not saying that people necessarily agreed with him politically from the get-go, but sort of, do these people honestly believe that the election was illegitimate, or is it a calculation? Is it a calculated move to maintain power because they can't afford to alienate Trump supporters?
Yeah, it's absolutely the latter. Say what you will about Ted Cruz, he's not a stupid person.
No.
And I think with Hawley, Cruz, well, maybe not Hawley, but with Cruz and Graham and people like them, I think they've just revealed who they are. It's not that they're suddenly different. And it's absolutely pure political calculation with the intent of hanging on to power at all costs. And Cruz and Hawley, in particular, in this example, clearly made the calculation that their best bet was to play to the base, because both of them, of course, want to run for president in 2024. And we need to make it very clear that not only is that not true, it also has gotten them fired. They need to be censured and expelled from the Senate. And then if we're serious about putting an end to this insanity, they need to be indicted and convicted.
Well, I think it'll be really interesting to see what this investigation shows and how much, even if it doesn't, though, in terms of their behavior, I think there are going to still be a lot of questions about that. Simon & Schuster, as you know, announced they've canceled Senator Hawley's book contract. I think as these ramifications repercussions start happening more and more, I think that people will feel less emboldened to kind of maintain the party line with Donald Trump. Hey, before we go, I know you're writing a new book. How are you coming along with that? Are you in the middle of it? Where process?
Did your editor ask you to ask me that